Alright, good morning everyone. This is Omar. I'm back with another video. Now, I told y'all that I was going to make a part 2 for my review of the book that I've read, which is right here. Right here. The 48 Laws of Power. About a couple weeks ago, I did part 1 where I covered the first 28 chapters. And out of those 28 chapters, I chose 6 of those that stood out the most to me. So this video, I'm going to cover the last half. I'm going to cover chapters 29 through 48. And once again, I have another 6 laws, you know, from reading that second half of the book. Those are the ones that stood out to me, and I'm just going to expand on those laws. So I just want y'all to just to bear with me as we go through these 6 laws and see how they apply. And then we're going to, I'm going to do some closing remarks about the book, about the author, how these laws could apply to you. Alright, so the first one I got here is law number 30, where it says, make your accomplishments seem effortless. Let that sink in. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. I like the examples that they use, because they use the great Houdini, who was like a illusionist, who's like a magician. He would be trapped inside of the weirdest and hardest things. He'll be trapped inside of a box underneath the water. He'll be trapped inside of some kind of animal or something like that. His hands and feet are bound up, and every single time he was able to break free, and he makes it seem like he doesn't even break a sweat about it. But at the same time, he gives the crowd all kind of anxiety, because he would act like he would struggle. He would act like he's having a hard time. So that's what makes the law so powerful, is because we got very, very gifted people out there who makes even the most difficult things seem easy. They make it seem so easy. I like watching highlight tapes, whether it be basketball or football. Some of my favorite basketball and football players. And in the highlight tape, these athletes are so gifted that they just make it seem so easy. Like they're not even trying. And it's almost they got some kind of extraordinary gift, extraordinary power, where it's like, wow, how did they get like that? But I like at the end of that chapter, it tells you gotta, if you want to be great at something, you gotta constantly, repeatedly be trying to sharpen your craft. You don't have to let people on the outside know what kind of hard work you're putting in. You constantly are researching. You're constantly strengthening your craft. You constantly build upon those strengths, so when it's showtime, boom, you're able to put on a show and make it seem easy when you do it. So that's law number 30. Now, law number 34, the second one I got here, is to act like a king before being treated like one. Think about that one. Think about that one. Act like a king, or for the women that's watching, act like a queen before being treated like one. And what this law is trying to say is, think about the energy that you are putting out. Think about the energy you putting out that other people see. Whenever I interact with people, if I'm around some ordinary people and I interact the same way they do, how you think they're going to treat me? Like they treat one another. But if I interact with them and I carry some type of dignity about myself, I'm not too quick to get angry at people. I have this kind of an aura about me. They want to treat me better than they treat one another. Come on, guys. So my fellas out there, How many times have you seen, you may have heard or you've seen a woman would cuss out another guy, would disrespect another guy? And that's simply because she has no respect for that guy. Even if that guy's her boyfriend, she has no respect for him. But when she talks to you, she gives you the utmost courtesy. Why you think that is? Because she respects you, because of the way you carry yourself. That's what this law is saying. So if you act a certain way, if you act like you're royalty, chances are you're going to be treated like royalty. If you act like you a boss, like you got it on, like you got it going on, people want to treat you exactly like, oh, okay, that person got it going on right there. That's a great law to apply right there, man. The next one I got here is law number 35. Have disdain for the things you cannot have. Now, when you think about it, you're like, what is that law exactly talking about? It's not talking about holding a grudge or even trying to get revenge on someone or something. What that law is saying that if you can't have something, show complete contempt for it. Act like it don't even exist. And when Robert Greene was explaining this law, there was some kind of like ancient folklore or something like that where it says if you have like a scratch, if you have like a small wound on your body, a small wound, and it's itching and it stings and it's irritated, and you just constantly looking at it, you picking at it, it's going to eventually get worse. But if you just apply ointment and let it heal on its own, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Ain't that what we do? We like to give people who don't matter too much of our energy. People are not even deserving of our energy. We give them way more power and energy than they deserve. If you just ignore them, they're going to go away. That's what this law is saying. You don't matter, so why should I pay any attention to you? This is actually a good law to apply because we like to sweat people who don't sweat us. You go holler at a female, she don't give you the time of day. We sitting there thinking, man, why she not giving me the time of day? Why she don't like me? Am I doing something wrong? What is it that I have to do to get her to give me the time of day? When you apply this law, if she doesn't like you, she doesn't like you. You go kick rocks. I'll find somebody else who's more deserving of my time. Boom, you just applied the law right there. Law number 35. The next one I got on here is avoid stepping in a great man's shoes. Oh, this one is so interesting right here. Avoid stepping in a great man's shoes. And if you think about it, we may have folks in our family. We may have a dad or granddad that was very gifted in a certain area, or was very gifted in a career. And a lot of the times we find ourselves rather than trying to create a legacy of our own, we want to try to follow in their footsteps. And oftentimes we fail because we're not necessarily blessed with the same attributes and gifts that they have. So what this law is saying is that if you have somebody that was a great predecessor before you, you don't do the things exactly the way they did them. You create your own path. It talked about, in this chapter, it talked about Alexander the Great, how he observed the law, because his father was a great leader, a great general. He had disdain for his father to the point where he wanted to crush his father's legacy and accomplish way more than his father ever did. And it worked out for him. It worked out for him. So rather than try to follow in somebody else's footsteps, why don't you create your own path? It makes it that much more powerful. I'm telling you, man, this book right here is heavy. Heavy, man. The next one I got on here, and I kind of had to chuckle when I saw it. Never appear too perfect. Oh my goodness. We know people like this. We know people who think they stuff don't stink. We know people like this. They don't have any weaknesses. They don't have any flaws. And what's crazy is when I read the book and it gave an example of how somebody transgressed the law, to where you can act like your stuff doesn't stink. You got it going on to the point where it's going to cause envy and contempt for that person that's with you, up to the point where they want to kill you. And that's exactly what happened in the book. You had two lovers. One of them was very popular, very gifted at what he did. His lover showed contempt for him. He ended up knocking him over the head with a sledgehammer. Never appear too perfect. It's okay to admit your flaws, man. It's okay. It's okay to say, you know what, I have certain weaknesses. You don't have to necessarily go into detail what those weaknesses are, because we know people like to take advantage of people. You don't have to go into details about what the weaknesses are. You just gotta be upfront and say, hey, I got certain vices that I'm struggling with. There's certain areas that I'm struggling with. There's certain weaknesses that I have, but I'm working on those weaknesses. You don't want to appear like you're God, like you're godlike. You can be extremely gifted at something, but you don't want to necessarily appear that way, because it's going to rub people the wrong way to where they want to do harm to you. Oh man, that law is a cold one, man. Never appear too perfect. Remember that. The last one I got on here is assume formlessness. Now I'm like, oh my, what in the world are you talking about? Assume formlessness. What that's saying is that you have to be. What's a better way I could explain this? You got to be multi-dimensional in your approach. You can't just be fixed on one way of doing things, one way to accomplish a goal. You got to approach it in different ways. You got to be multi-dimensional. Ain't that the goal for us? Isn't that the goal, to be well-rounded, multi-dimensional? You want to be strong not only in one area, you want to be strong in 5 areas. And it gave a great example in the book of how the ancient city of Greece, the Spartans, they had a strong army, powerful army. Couldn't nobody defeat them. It can be 1,000 Spartans and they can defeat 10,000 enemies because their army was that well trained. What it came down to was that the city of Athens was almost becoming as strong as the city of Greece, of Sparta. And they did things differently. They had a strong economic base. Y'all see what I'm saying? Strong economic base. Strong navy base, to where they operated on the waters to open up the trades to the city. That's exchange of goods, exchange of commerce right there. Whenever situations came up, they were multi-dimensional in their approach. They ended up overtaking Greece. Even though they initially lost to Greece, to the Spartans, they end up overtaking them because they got a strong economic base. Once they money and politics start flowing in, ancient Greece couldn't handle that, and it ended up corrupting them from the inside out, fam. Think about, from the inside out, it corrupted them. It corrupted their culture, their way of life. So that was the very last law of the book, was assume formlessness. I'm telling you, man, if y'all don't get y'all a copy of this book right here, heavy. Robert Greene is the GOAT. He is the GOAT. He should be a motivational speaker. After I read this book, I'm intrigued to read some more of the books that he has. So those are the 6 that I have listed on here. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. Act like a king before being treated like one. Have disdain for things you can't have. Avoid stepping in the great man's shoes. Never appear too perfect. And assume formlessness, which means just to be multi-dimensional in your approach, man. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'll catch y'all later.